We are live. Thank you. Y'all ready? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our weekly news conference. We actually do not have a whole lot, so we do not expect this to be a belabored news conference. So with that, I will turn it over to the mayor. When he is done, we'll answer a few questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I have a few things that we want to present to you. I'm happy to have my feet back on the ground here in Jackson. Last week, I spent some time in Seattle, Washington, dealing with public safety initiatives and violence interruption programming. Not only was I there, but the city was represented by other individuals, not only from our Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, but in addition, some of the grassroots organizations that are working on the ground. So it was encouraging. We learned a lot, and we look forward to the application of those things that we learned. Going into the press conference, I'd like to start by acknowledging and congratulating Lanier High School on its 100th anniversary. Go ahead and make some noise. You can. They're celebrating their homecoming this week. Lanier actually opened, so it'll go through the course of this school year, but because this is their homecoming time, Lanier actually opened in 1925. They are playing Raymond High School. I think that we have some people that work in the city and in different roles that actually went to Raymond High. So, you know, on this one, there is no conflict of interest, so I'm rooting for Lanier. Go ahead. Go Bulldogs. But we hope that everyone enjoys themselves for the homecoming festivities. We know that they come out and they're loud and proud on their homecoming, and so we want everybody to have a safe, enjoyable time. I believe I'll be trying to join them if I can for the homecoming festivities. So look forward to seeing them, and happy 100th. Today is World Homeless Day. World Homeless Day is on Thursday. It's happening this week. And Stu Potts Opportunity Center is recognizing World Homeless Day and holding a special community fair that will feature great food, live entertainment, and special guests. It is important that we understand that we don't criminalize poverty, that we address homelessness in a holistic way, and present solutions to how we address it. That is why we are continuing to dig in efforts like our non-conjugal residence for our homeless population. I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity at the request of the mayor of Los Angeles to see Skid Row, see homelessness at its very worst in our nation, and understand what they are doing to address and eradicate the condition of the unhoused. And we want to apply those same solutions in Jackson. Those solutions include having a proper count of our homeless population and being able, with that count, to disaggregate the data to understand who is homeless for a lack of housing and who is homeless for a lack of services. It would do nothing if we gave someone a home but didn't address the lack of services that led them to be on the street in the first place. And so that's what we want to do. That's what we're endeavoring to do. I have nominated this as an important issue. We know that many of our residents complain and are concerned about the unsightliness of what the unhoused condition looks like. But that means that we all have a responsibility, that we can't simply say that we are sympathetic or empathetic to the issue of the unhoused without a shared sacrifice of what that looks like to address the issue, and that's what we're trying to do. In the meantime, we're grateful for our community partners that have been on the ground as long as I can remember, making sure that they provide services to our unhoused, making sure that they show the love of Christ in the work that they do, and making certain that they help lead the way in what we do as a city moving forward. So with that, I'd like to ask if Ms. Javonda Stanton will come forward and join us and talk about World Homeless Day. Thank you. All right, thank you so much.
Everything that he just said. As a matter of fact, you gave my entire spiel almost, almost verbatim. So Stu Potts Opportunity Center is, thank you, I'm shorter than the average. Stu Potts Opportunity Center, this is our second annual World Homeless Day event. Now this is a platform that's, I think, 2014, we've had World Homeless Day internationally. This is our second year to be able to do it as a state, and Stu Potts is grateful to have the opportunity to do that. We've got some amazing community partners, amazing. WAPT, that's a shout out. I don't know if I'm allowed to do it, but I'm doing it. We've got Chef Nick Wallace, one of our own, giving back to the community. He is going to feed at least 300 people in the community on this day. That is extraordinary. He's partnered with U.S. Foods to be able to do this. We've got live entertainment. We've got, I can't forget the city of Jackson and the support that they've shown us. Absolutely remarkable. They were sponsors last year. We got them again this year. Something else that's important to note, at the very beginning of this event, we will be unveiling the commemorative community memorial to Jalen Burns. Jalen was taken from us this time last year, Jackson State University student, and we are grateful that we're going to have his mother. She's going to be here with us to be able to share hugs, to celebrate what community and service look like. And for anyone that has any questions about this event, you can reach us at 601-949-3540. This is Thursday, October the 10th, World Homeless Day Community Fair, 845 West of Mid Street. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a buzz. The time is 11 to 4. Now, if you really want to know when the good stuff is happening, I'll go ahead and tell you a secret. All day. All day. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Stanton, not only for that information, but the work that y'all do at Stu Potts. And let me say this as we push forward, not only with our non-congregated residence plan and program. We'd like to have those that are unhoused at the moment in time to be a part of our think tank as we look at addressing these issues. Oftentimes we find solutions for people and we don't engage those who are actually contending with the circumstance to be a part of the discussion. And so we have significant gaps because we don't understand the challenge. And so we're trying to build solutions without fully understanding those challenges. I've been a part of some unhoused programs that have happened in the city. We've talked about that. And so as we've nominated this as an issue, we want to push forward and ramp up that effort. So just want to make you aware of that, and we'll look to have those conversations as we go forward. Speaking of housing, also the Office of Housing and Community Development is prepared to roll out its down payment assistance program. They will be unveiling the details of the program on October 25th at the E-Center. Once again, that's October 25th. At the E-Center. And the aim is to help Jackson residents realize the dream of home ownership. We've talked about increasing the amount of funding for first-time home buyers in the city of Jackson. The programs that we have contemplated and put forth are programs that not only help people realize that dream, but also sustain a tax base in the city of Jackson. As we've seen people leave, then we want to incentivize people living in the city of Jackson. We want to incentivize the value of home ownership, because when you are, in fact, a home owner, then your lease on life is often looked at a lot differently. How your community looks is more meaningful to you because you are vested, you are invested in that community. We understand after recent data and information that our Office of, our Department of Planning and Development released that the majority of Jackson residents are in fact renters at this time. And so we want to take them out of the lack of security of a rental status into actual home ownership. And so please join us on October 25th at the E-Center to learn the details, to learn what the city is already doing and what we intend to do going forward so that people can realize this dream. Also, having these type of programs is an effort towards economic development. When you are able to create more homeowners, then the market and the demand for housing increases. This is something that I learned at DMA, this program, Democratic Mayors Association, in my travels, where there was a presentation. I was in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a presentation on what many communities have done in order to increase the desire for economic development within their community, housing development within their community. And one of the first points was having a down payment assistance program so that you can make the path of home ownership a little easier for our residents. And where there is a reluctance to offer home buying assistance loans from many of our banks, this is where the city can step in and fill that gap. And also in our relationship with our banking community, either as our depository or other things that we use, this is a shout out to them to let them know that this is what we're going to be asking for. It is certainly a benefit to your banking establishment in order to hold the city's funds. Well, we would like to turn that into a benefit for our community. And so we're building on what we offer and also pushing those entities to step up to the plate and do a little more, which I believe that they will be willing to do on behalf of our residents. And then the last thing that I have for you is an update on Thalia Mara Hall, oldie but goodie. We have continued to tell you to go to the website to look on the tab. We understand that as you have looked, that many of those updates have been repeated because we've been waiting on a number of things. We issued a bid recently, and our third-party evaluator was a little concerned with what was returned, and so he made some adjustments to that bid process, some things that he wanted to incorporate. That bid is out now, and we anticipate opening the bids next week. This is done based on the emergency, so immediately after opening those bids, it should not be a long delay before we can actually get to work. We do have the money in hand for the remediation work to be done under this, but we understand that there's other work that is beyond the scope of just the remediation that we look to deal with in very short order. Once the remediation work is accomplished, that should be sufficient for us to actually open Thalia Mara Hall again. But as we said, there's other work to be done to our aging facility, beautiful facility, but aging nonetheless. And so we look forward to doing that. I think one of the recent updates is that a chiller was delivered. The chiller has not been installed. These are the things that you learn in the process. The chiller has not been installed because if we don't do the remediation of the microbial growth, then it could possibly infect the chiller. It could have some of that growth go into the chiller. So it is there, but it is uninstalled because we have to actually do the remediation part first to ensure that this huge purchase of a chiller isn't therefore rendered useless because of any type of bacteria getting into the chiller. So with that, that's what I have for you. If you have any questions, we're prepared. Yes, sir. Mr. Adams.
So the bids, you said the bid will be open next week?
Yeah, so what I mean by that is we will be opening the submissions. The bid is already, the RFP has already gone out. We have some submissions, but we don't open them until,
So after that, the bid, after you select one of those contractors from the bid, how soon will the remediation begin?
Well, it will depend on the contractor that receives the bid and how prepared, how quickly they can mobilize and are ready to move forward. I'm certain that will be some level of consideration within that process because we are doing this on an emergency basis. But this won't be, because this is being done on an emergency basis, it won't be the typical procedure for a city that may take weeks to months. We look forward to, if possible, starting immediately, but that will be a factor to be determined by the actual company that receives the bid and their ability to mobilize as quickly as possible. So I'm certain that this will be Monday that we're opening the bids. I won't be here, but maybe we can get out an update and put out a timeline on the tab of when we expect the actual remediation to start and the work to start. So we will be updating the website. I'm giving you these updates because from my vantage point, I want to share with you that we're trying to apply more pressure to the pedal. We're trying to move forward and increase it. But for our third-party evaluator, our engineer, looking at the bids that were received prior and having a concern about that, we wouldn't have had to issue and redo the bids. And so we would have been talking about work that was taking place a little sooner than now. But because there was a concern, because we wanted to amend the actual RFP to incorporate a few other things, that is why it won't be until next week. So for those that are wondering, hey, you've been telling us we're waiting on the remediation, we're waiting on the remediation. These are the reasons behind the scenes why it hasn't started. It's not because it's an unimportant or not prioritized for the city. It's because these things happen in the process of doing these things. And so we're looking forward to those bids, and we're looking forward to starting the work. Hopefully, Ross, don't hold me to it, but I am saying I'm optimistic that work, once the bid is open, can either start next week or the week following.
And is there somebody within the city or volume part that will be overseeing this work to make sure it's done?
Yeah, you will not only have.
Is someone at volume going to be held accountable for this problem not being addressed before the facility was forced to close for months and months?
So I'll answer the first part of your question first. The first part is, will someone be there? We have contracted engineering services that help fulfill our engineering needs as a city. Those contracted services have been directed to look at the issues at Thalia-Mara, and they are the third-party evaluator that I've been speaking of. They answer directly to our CAO, but they answer to the administration more, globally in their services, and they've been a huge help, not only in this effort, identifying some things that needed to be added, but also they've been helpful in our street resurfacing and holding contractors accountable. They've been extremely helpful to all of our needs as a city. In terms of holding someone accountable, we always hold people accountable, and we'll continue to hold people accountable when they have failed to address a responsibility. Now, the narrative that things have gotten out of hand and that was at someone's fault, I think is a mischaracterized narrative. I say it's mischaracterized because many of the things that are being repaired are things that have been asked about, that we've lobbied the state legislature for, we've received the money for, but the process of moving it forward to actually be able to bring the engineering in, and step A, B, and C being in place before we can move forward with things like a chiller that isn't on the shelf that has to be built and then sent to the city. Those are delays that, while unfortunate, in many instances are unavoidable. And so what we've seen with Thalia-Mara Hall is, while we knew the decline was taking place in many of these things, our efforts to address them were not as fast as Thalia-Mara's decline and its effort to go down. We know with the chiller that it went down on a week. I mean, it had another issue on a weekend. By that next week, we started communicating about it. You knew about it. And so there was nobody there at Thalia-Mara Hall on the weekend in order to inform. And so at first notice, at first information, the people who are responsible told us. So that wouldn't be a failure on their behalf. It would just be an unfortunate challenge that they're made to address. And so, but if failures do happen, as with any department, then the requisite response would be issued to that failure, and we would address whoever has responsibility there. All right. I'm going to go Charlie and then to the back.
Okay. My first question is, I was hoping you could expand upon Jackson's water system that you pitched to the select committee about 2 weeks ago. Could you just kind of expand a little bit
Yeah,
on it?
I will leave the ultimate discussion, Charlie, to a more formal and organized meeting within community to not only detail what we've envisioned, but to hear community's feedback on that. Now, what I have suggested on this two-board solution is that this is the administration's effort of seeing how we deal with the balance of both technical response and know-how and the equitable, sustainable solution that we feel needs to be in place on behalf of community. But to give you just, the basics of that, on one hand, we are looking at the creation and have been talking to the Department of Justice already. They came to us and said that the EPA wants to ramp up discussions about where do we go from here. They came to us and said that they were interested in the city of Jackson maintaining control of this. And so in that discussion, we had already been thinking about not wanting to go back to the previous structure that we've had. We wanted to make certain that we had utility management expertise in the room, and so we thought about both an operations board and a community advisory board. The operations board would be a board that is responsible for hiring the CEO of the water system. That CEO would then, hire all of the workforce that was necessary internally, would identify the management contract or the operations contract within the water treatment facility, what company is over that, and the expectations and the scope of work. But the operations board, we feel, needs to be made up of a number of skill sets. So we talked about, I believe, two positions, a 5-member board, 2 positions that would be reserved for an individual or individuals that have management level experience in utility operations, whether that's in a water utility, whether that's in a power utility or gas utility, so on and so forth. We want 2 individuals that have that level of expertise. We also talked about one or two members that have engineering. One member that has engineering level, PE, I guess, level expertise to be a member of that board. Another member to be representative of one of the highest users or largest users of the water system. And there's one I'm forgetting because I'm not looking at the document right now, to be added to the board. And so that would be the 5-member board. Now, to ensure that the Community Advisory Board, which would also receive updates from the Operations Board on a routine basis, to ensure that their work and their representation is more than ceremonial, they would also hold the power of anyone who was nominated to be a part of the Operations Board. They would have a confirmation step in there. So no one could be placed on the Operations Board without a majority vote of the Community Advisory Board. We considered the Community Advisory Board being similar to our Planning Board in the city of Jackson. So I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 15-member board, so that they could have some ability to ask questions, right? So that those members that are on the Operations Board know that they have to be accountable to community, know that there is another checks and balance, and there is another boss, if you will, that they have to be responsible to. Understanding that the work, the lift of an operations board would be significant, and we want to incentivize that. We've also considered a stipend for those board members. It's not uncommon. It's what Entergy does with their executive board. They give them, I don't know what they get paid, but we look for a commensurate amount of pay to go to those individuals. It's not a daily job. It's not something that they would go and check into each and every day. But we want to incentivize and make it attractive for people to be a part of that board, knowing that the consequences of what they do will be heavily weighed. And so we want to make certain that we get truly, truly talented people to be in those positions.
Okay, just a follow-up real quick. Has there been any discussion? I know you said you talked to the DOJ about this, but what about with Ted and Jackson Water? Are they involved in these?
I will just say that Ted and Jackson Water has, from the agreed stipulated order, have responsibilities in their communication with the city of Jackson that are not being sufficiently met. So we certainly would welcome them to the table. I am always willing to talk to Ted. If Ted were available today, I'd probably cut off some responsibility I have, some meeting I have to go to, because it's that important. So we're cheering for the work that they're doing. We're grateful that we have them at the table and that there have been a number of improvements met. And so we're not diminishing those improvements, but we are saying that this issue is so serious that, we're not willing to just release the keys and not comment, not express our concerns, not to deliver the concerns of the community that are being constantly heard by our administration and council members. So Ted has not played a role in that, but that is more a consequence of an unwillingness to meet with us on a regular basis, not because we have been trying to hide or we're restricting his access to this information. But the DOJ has been a part of the conversations. Our city attorney's office has been a part of the discussions. And so we look forward to the most important component, and that's community being a part of the discussions. Yes, ma'am.
When do you plan to officially announce whether you will run for re-election, and really as mayor, what will be your top priorities in the next year?
Well, let me say this. I've already, at the question being posed, I've already indicated my intention to run for re-election. I will not use my time at the podium as mayor as an opportunity to deliver a campaign speech. So in due time, when the campaign feels that it is appropriate, there's a lot of candidates that, people are less familiar with. I'm okay with them trying to introduce themselves to community. I'm not new. I've been working for community. I'm campaigning every day by the way that I work hard for the city of Jackson, and I will continue to do that. At the end of the day, I don't feel that I own this position. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve, and the position belongs to the people. And so my view remains and continues to remain that I only run if it's necessary. Do I believe that there are some things that we have to see across the goal line? Absolutely, and that's why I believe it is necessary. And I will make announcements when we collectively as a campaign decide to do an event, if we decide to do an event, right? You may just see signs come up, right? All of those things will be discussed. I will be in community, as I always am. But whoever sent that question, tell them never fear. I'll be a part of this process, and I look forward to distinguishing our work versus those that are vying for the position. I have on my wall in my office, our work is our defense, and so that's what we will talk about.
Also, you should talk about the relationship between the state and the city. A lot of people say it's strained. So how could you, with those collaborators, with efforts, change going in?
Yeah, so I will say this. As an administration, we've always been present on issues that involve the city of Jackson at the State House. I will say that we always desire a solid and great relationship with the state. I will say that the issues that are strained are not because the city in some way puts itself in a defiant position. It's because these are things critical to our development as a city. As mayor, when you're trying to take a stadium from the city, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to say, yeah, come on in, take a resource from us when you're trying to take our airport? Am I in some way oppositional because I say, listen, let's not do that. This is a resource to the city, and we want it to work on our behalf. When you're trying to take over our water system and you've done nothing to support it, it's not because I'm in some way unreasonable or unwilling to work with the state. It's because there is what appears to be an organized effort to take resources from the city of Jackson. And so we are diplomatic, but we're as diplomatic as our options are. When you tell us that we're not going to get any legislation passed until we give up our airport, then that's not the city being oppositional. And so I would pose the question at the appropriate time for those that suggest that they can build a better relationship and may have the responsibility to do it right now. What does that look like for you? Does that mean that you give up the resources of the city of Jackson? Is that your way of an olive branch? Is that your way of building a better relationship? And if it is, then that should not work for us because we should not have to relinquish every resource or our values in that process. And so that's what I don't do. I don't drop or release our values in the process of negotiations. And there's a difference. This is the last thing I'll say. Sometimes we get in discussions where people are really nice to us. They laugh and joke with us, and we believe them to be a friend. There's a difference between being friendly and being a friend. Someone who's being friendly doesn't mind patting you on the back and telling you how great you are. Someone who's a friend operates in your interest. They make certain that the things that are important to your community are not violated. They make certain that the resources that your community depends on are supported for the benefit of that community, and they don't do otherwise. So, last question over here.
I spoke with a few residents that live behind a shopping center off of Old Canton Road, and they're just struggling with, trash overflow, just saying it's an eyesore, and it's affecting their daily lives. Just out of curiosity, is there any efforts being made by the city as far as just cleaning up, not necessarily?
So I can only talk globally because I don't know which shopping center you're talking about specifically. I can tell you our planning and development department works constantly. We often send out crews to clean up those things on our own. The challenge becomes when people go out and dump again, right? And whether we have an ability, we can't police the areas 24 hours a day. And so when that happens, then the onus and responsibility comes on the ownership to secure the area in a sufficient way that that doesn't continue to happen. Oftentimes when we have to put forth the manpower or the people power to remediate those challenges, we have to apply some type of fee to the property owner. And so we will continue to deploy every resource, every meaningful tool in order to address those issues. But it's something that if the expectation is that the city of Jackson merely comes out and cleans up behind every private property owner, then not only is that beyond our capacity, then we will have a growing list of businesses that would expect that same service going forward. And so we will hold them accountable, but that's an escalating scale. There are gaps within our law in terms of how you address community improvement issues. We go through environmental court. Sometimes what you see is the challenge addressed while a hearing is active, and then later down the line they allow it to get in a unsightly condition again, and then we have to address it. So we're chasing behind this on a consistent basis, and we wouldn't only have the issue that's on Old Canton. We'd have issues in South Jackson and West Jackson and all of these places that we have to monitor and deal with. But for those residents that are concerned with it, we want them to know that we prioritize it and it's important to us, and we're doing all that we can. I would point to a number of successes in terms of unsightly places in the city of Jackson that we've addressed. A big one that was a blight on the city for a very long time was Casa Grande in South Jackson. If you look downtown, there are buildings right across from the Standard Life that no longer exist, that were blights on the city and made us look like an abandoned city. If you look down Ellis Avenue, while we point to where there are areas that have blight and have fallen in, there were a number of hotels that are no longer there, right? Some of those have been demolished because of the city's efforts and insistence. Some of those have been demolished because we turned up the heat and property owners understood that we needed to do that. Briarwood would be another example. We saw once that building was shuttered, and we saw the unhoused go in there. We saw windows being broken out. We saw a number of challenges taking place in that building. In order to ensure that we addressed the concern of the community, we made certain that we addressed that. Our municipal judges held that as a responsibility. That comes out of discussions that we've had with our municipal judges, telling them these are our priorities, these are our concerns, and I think that they have adequately responded. As is human nature, when you see other things and you see successes, you don't become satisfied. You start looking at other things that are unaddressed and showing concern. It is my responsibility to point to these successes, to leave you encouraged that we haven't forgotten you and that we're going to address your challenge and your concern as well. All right. I am getting a note on a napkin, so, this is the State of the City will be on Thursday, 10/10/24, and it is at 6 p.m. and it is at the Ice House. We look forward to y'all joining us. I'm sure Ross will have one or two questions for me when he comes. We're also looking for vendors to come to showcase what they offer in the city. We want the State of the City to be an opportunity to not only hear about the progress, our vision going forward, but also an opportunity to highlight the businesses and establishments that make our city, give our city a sense of place. So I thank y'all.
I have another question today, if you can answer it.
No, you're out of questions.
Regarding your running for re-election, you say you intend to run, so it sounds like you haven't totally closed the door to not running. And the question is, what I'm hearing from some folks in the community, there's a sense that you have failed as mayor, and then there's a group of business people meeting with particular candidates, trying to find someone they can settle on, put a huge amount of money behind to run against you.
Yeah. So let me say this. I appreciate that. I don't know how more clear I need to be. I will be running for mayor, okay? Let me say it like that so that there's no ambiguity in that. I don't know what poll you've done with people who are concerned about how I've done, but it would not be any different, Ross. Every time I've run for mayor, I've never received 100% of the vote, right? So if there are people out there who have questions about my work, they're entitled to hold me accountable. They're entitled to question that work. And I'm responsible for delivering what I've done, right? Under our administration, we've saved our school district. Under our administration, we've paved more miles of road than any administration in recent history. Under our administration, we've held an international company to task to make certain that we didn't let our enterprise system go into insolvency. That was later talked about by the state auditor. He posed it as the only reason that you are surviving is because of that lawsuit, instead of posing that you saved it from going into insolvency. Under our administration, we've gotten more money than anyone in recent history from the federal government, to the tune of $800 million to save our water system. So we have a few things to point to that demonstrate what we've done and why this is the administration that is in best position to move us forward. I look forward to those that may feel differently, to hosting conversations with them and maybe changing their minds. If they are unchanged and they still want to support someone else, as I said, I don't own this position. I'm only here because I love this city. I only fight for the things that I fight for out of love and compassion for the city and no other interest. And I will continue to do that. I've demonstrated that not only as mayor, I've demonstrated that from my earliest days as a child in this city and the work that I've done. And I will continue to do that. All right. Thank you.